All right, everyone. Welcome to Football Roundtable from the Couch Sports Talk Radio. First off, everyone, Happy New Year's. Second of all, on a more somber note, our hearts go out to the victims and their families of what happened in New Orleans. I don't know quite what to say about it. But we are thinking of you, and I don't know what else to say. So anyway, I am here. I am your host, Sean. I'm here with David Lodick and Eric. How are you boys doing tonight? David, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Happy New Year to everybody. Again, to reiterate, Sean, yeah, it is an unfortunate situation in New Orleans. Sugar Bowl was canceled out of abundance of precaution. I don't disagree with that move at all, and it's just really a sad commentary on what's happening in this country the last couple of years. And I don't know what to say. It's a shame, really shame.
Eric, how are you tonight?
Obviously on New Year's, I second that. It's a sad commentary on what's going on in the world, and it's unfortunate that these things continue to happen. It's unfortunate that these beings are filled with hate and they're filled with the want to go harm people and the ability to do so. So I hope we meet the devil at the gate, and I hope we rip him out, root and stem. But let's go on to football. So week 18.
All right, so here we are. We're at the final week of the season. I believe we're going to make this kind of a short show. We know it's New Year's, and most of you are spending time with your families, as you should, and this is the time of year to do it. So a couple things after week 17, a couple of games of note. New Orleans losing to Vegas. What the hell happened there?
Well, again, if you look from the week before, the fact New Orleans scored, 10 points this week? I mean, Spencer Rattler has proved that he's not ready for prime time, short time, no time. New Orleans had dealt with injuries all year. Derek Carr going down, Alvin Kamara going down, Chris Olave going down. It's unfortunate, but not unforeseen based on the injuries. They started off the season really strong. Like I said, I think they started the season, 4-0. Everybody thought Dennis Allen was going to be the first coach fired, and I think he was either 4-0 or 3-1. In his first two games, he had 96 points scored.
Yeah, they were averaging 44 points a game over the first 2 weeks.
I think they have 198 points since, you know what I mean, in the last 15 games. So it's just a sad commentary for them. But again, that is also the NFL. You can be the highest of high, and then you can turn around and hit the lowest of low really quick. It's a week-to-week league.
Yeah. Eric, what about the Baltimore-Houston game? It was that as embarrassing as it looked to me?
It's late in the season. I don't think so. I think sometimes teams have anomalies because just the amount of football they have to play. I mean, Baltimore obviously looked good. It's exciting to see what happens down the stretch. Lamar's playing for the MVP conversation, but I don't take too much. I don't take too much stock in one game or two games towards the end of the year. It's really more, making sure you're healthy and making sure you start to play good football. Houston hasn't played good football, and so they're not taking any momentum. But
and they're not healthy.
They're not healthy, so that's probably a lot to do with it. In all honesty, you as beat up as C.J. Stroud was the minute was that Tank Dell, right?
Tank Dell.
Tank Dell went down. And I was watching the game, and when the receiver went out, he kind of looked distraught. You have relationships with these guys, and these guys, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to come over, and that comes to coaching. And you can't replace a player, but you have to teach the player how to stay in the fight. But I mean, watching a devastating injury like that a comrade like that go down, it's very traumatic, and it probably weighs a lot on your season. And realizes that there's more to life than football. Because that guy is going to be suffering as he tries to recover from it. Now he's got a lot of money. He's going to have great people around him to help. But still, there's a lot of pain involved in that injury. It really screwed up, I think, the Texans season up. And he's a young guy. I mean, C.J. Stroud's the second year. So it is what it is. I think it's more of an indictment on where his mind's at than where it is in Baltimore, where Baltimore's at. Baltimore just took advantage of a bleeding sheep, and it was an easy hunt for them. So I don't take too much stock into that game, and we'll see what happens moving forward.
Okay, I got a question for you both. Then I'm going to get back to the games, but this is Tank Dell's second year in the league?
Third.
Okay. Last year, he had a very brutal injury.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, he's had a very brutal injury. Now, we've all played football in high school or whatever, but that doesn't mean anything versus pros and how badly you get hurt. But Eric, as a coach, what type of psychological scars go on in a player who gets severely injured, or have you ever had one? Does Tank Dell possibly say I'm done with this? I mean, it's crazy to think.
So, I mean, that depends on him and what he's got inside of him. I can tell you that when I'm with, my guys and we're training and we're working, I want the best for them in life. I'm not looking at them as football players. I'm looking at them as men in life and trying to get them, prepared for a lot of different life situations, not just playing the game of football. So the hope is that they develop their skills and talents in other ways where they can provide for themselves and put a roof over their head and put bread on the table. That's the goal for him. Hopefully he has other skills. Some people, I mean, I've had not quite to that level injuries, but I've had a bunch of physical and mental injuries that I've gone through in my life. And I can tell you I'm motivated because, every time I get hurt, I get stronger and it makes me stronger. But that's me. If he's at the point of where he's taken a couple big ones and he doesn't, want to continue to do that, that's not a bad thing. There's other things in life that I hope that people would encourage him to help develop and go into other career avenues. Sports, life, it's tough. I mean, it's a tough way of life. Anything you do, you're going to get knocked down. What you get up and what you do determines who you are. So if, there's no shame if he gets up and he recovers from this and does some other things in life. But it just really, it's not anybody in Houston. It's all him and what he has and what he wants to do with his life. I hope he gets the encouragement, but Tank Dell is Tank Dell. I wish him the best. I hope everything goes okay with any major injury as a human being to a human being.
David, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do want to say, I think it's funny. And this is kind of the way I look at it. When you're young, when you're a young guy like Tank Dell, I think you always, no matter what your injury is, I always think there's the psychological thing that you have to come back from. You have to be able to, in your head, especially with what happened to him, you got to be able to go out and make a cut and not think about making a cut. You just got to go and play instinctful. And I think with the younger players, it's a lot easier to do. And what I mean by that is, and let's take a guy like Tank Dell, and then you take a guy like Von Miller. Okay, Von Miller blew out his knee and really hasn't been the same since. And he did it twice in his career. He did it right in L.A., and then he came into Buffalo, and then he did it the first year he was in Buffalo. And I think in those instances, when you're younger, you don't make as many business decision or after life decisions or after football life decisions that you do as you become an older player. And when you start to think about your longevity or your short lifespan left in the NFL, I think those mental things, whether we want to say that or not, because we always look at NFL players as the ultimate competitors and so on and so forth, they still, as you get older and know that your time is running out in the NFL, you start to look at what life is like after football. A guy like Tank Dell, who just started out in the NFL, I think it's easier for him to bounce back and want to come back. But like for guys like Von Miller, like me and Jeffrey celebrated 5 sacks of Von Miller, okay? And for Von Miller, that 5 sacks could have been a major achievement for him based on where he was at, But it's just to me, as you get older in the game, I think you put more stock in those injuries and realize that I'm not going to be around in this game, but for maybe another year or two, and I got to worry about what I'm going to be doing after football, and if I'm going to be able to walk, if I'm going to be able to sit, if I'm going to be able to stand, if I'm going to be able to do all those things. So I think for Tank Dell, coming back might not be as difficult. It's going to be extremely tough just based on what had happened to him. But I don't think the mental aspect will be there. If this was later in his career, I think it might be much, much more difficult. And you might have seen the last of Tank Dell if this was his 8th or 9th year in the league. I mean, honestly, that's just my opinion.
I'm just saying this to say it. Like, if he was 29 and this happened, you'd be like, his career's over. And that's the youth of the sport that really needs to be thought about, because like most of us, I'm about to turn 54 and I'm like, oh damn, I'm getting old. But in football terms, when you're 31, you're old.
Right.
And that's scary to think that you haven't even lived half your life. And, now this is, it's your career is over. So anyway, so if anyone ever, this wouldn't people like, oh, football players get paid this much, and people, and I understand that, but the fact is these people are the best of the best in the smallest group of people you could ever put together. So, all right, I'm enough preaching. Denver at Cincinnati. What a game. Bo Nix further, made himself a candidate for Rookie of the Year doing what he did. And yes, with what was it, 18 seconds left, he throws that touchdown pass.
Yep.
But great game. Denver ended up losing. Cincinnati won the game, but damn, is this more, I understand Cincinnati really doesn't have any defense. But this was a great game. And
I just got to say, I've been I understand Cincinnati doesn't have a defense or very little defense. But the last couple of weeks, Denver's defense has given up some points. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, for the last month and a half, almost 2 months, I've been telling everybody that Denver scares the hell out of me as a team because their defense has been good. And their offense has been getting production from Bo Nix, from their wide receivers, their running backs. Their defense, when they're on, Nick Bonino, probably one of the unsung players and probably in running for Defensive Player of the Year, even though he wouldn't win it. But just some of the impact plays he does. I think he's got 2 or 3 pick sixes for touchdowns as a linebacker, sacks. So, I look at the Denver Broncos as formidable playoff team if they make it. I mean, they have to win this week against a second and third string Kansas City team. So we'll see what happens, because we've seen many a time, a team that's in contention plays a team of third stringers. And you got to remember one thing about those second and third stringers that are playing for Kansas City. They're playing for recognition. They're playing to be able to, if Kansas City moves on from them, if they're free agents, if they're cut, they're playing to get paid somewhere else to go and play. So people think, oh, they're playing the third string Kansas City or second string Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, but those guys are playing for future contracts. They're not playing just to play out the string. They're playing to become noticed, because they don't get noticed on a team like that. So my hope for Denver is they don't take that for granted, and they go out and they perform the way they have to do to sew up that last playoff spot, because their fate is in their hands. They control their destiny. If they don't, they need 2 other teams to lose. So we'll see what happens. But I'm a fan of Denver, but I would be very scared offensively for a team like Cincinnati to get in, because you need an offense that can keep up for them point for point, because Joe Burrow has been lights out for the last 2 months.
Yes, he has. Eric, any thoughts on the Denver-Cincinnati game?
No, Denver should have gone for 2. But no, I mean, it takes Joe Burrow going 400 yards and throwing 3 touchdowns and being nearly perfect for them to have a chance to win. Just keep that in mind. I do think he's dangerous in the playoffs because he's a great quarterback, but he literally has to go for 400 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns for them to have a chance to win. I mean,
we'll discuss that in just a moment.
What's that?
I said we'll discuss that in just a moment.
All right. We can discuss it, but I mean that in that Denver game, that the lining behind the lining, we get so caught up in quarterback play, we forget the rest of the team. We always forget about 21 different positions. We always focus on just one, and that's how bad the Bengals are. He went for 400 yards, and they needed every ounce of it to try to win.
Right.
Oh, I agree.
So the last game I want to talk about was the Monday Night Football game, which I did not watch because in my 4 fantasy leagues, I made it to the playoffs, and week 1 of the playoffs in my pay league sucked. Week 1 of my non-pay league sucked. Week 1 of my crappy league that I'll never play again, I was going for 6th place or 5th place, and my other league that was just there, I came in 3rd. Anyway, yeah, my team sucked, and at that point, I was so upset because I had been outscoring everyone. It was the number 1 point leader in the league until 2 weeks ago. As soon as I got to the playoffs, I sucked. Eric, how did you do in your fantasy leagues?
I was out, I guess, in the Jeff knocked me out of the playoffs on the Josh Allen catch and run. Because I actually was winning and scored that, and Josh didn't score any more points the rest of the game. So it came down. He got like 12 or 13 points on that one play because they gave him a touchdown pass and a catch at the same time. And that knocked me out. And then I won my next round, which in our sleeper league, if you win your first round, then it's over. So I was not the worst team, but just somewhere in the middle of the pack.
I had Josh Allen in my pay league, and even with that play,
I'm going to tell you, man. That Monday night game, it tore me up. It crushed me because I had to cheer for and against Jahmyr Gibbs at the same time, and that sucks. Because from the couch league, I won the championship. I had Jahmyr Gibbs and I had Jamison Williams in that league, and they got me, I think, like 56 points total, which I won. And then in my other league, where I would have won $400, the 30-yard touchdown run that Jahmyr Gibbs scored, I lost that game by 4 points.
Oh,
If he doesn't score that touchdown and they get him out at the 1 and then Goff sneaks it in or whatever, I'd have won my game. But so it was heartbreaking. And the guy that was playing me had Isaac Ruendo as well. So it was kind of like, yeah, Frisco and you know, it couldn't have been the defensive battle of the year where Detroit only puts up 10 points and San Francisco puts up 9. No, they got to score 40 and 34 to, you know what I mean? And it's like, so yeah, I lost my game. Going into that game, I was up by, I think by like 38, and I ended up losing by 4. So it crushed me. But I won our From the Couch League, but I lost the other one. So can't have everything in life.
how many years have you won the From the Couch League, David?
I have won 2 out of the 3 years we've done the league. I've won. Yeah, I'm going to be waiting for another ring to come in. I'm going to have my.
Okay, so David can't pick games worth of shit, but he can play fantasy football. So David needs to do a fantasy football show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get it at you. There you go.
Yeah, I know.
And then, you know, then the rest of us will take care of the rest of you on betting and stuff like that. Okay, so I want to recap what's going to happen this week, but first of all, I want to go through kind of what's happening, and I need to share my screen. Take me a second here. Share screen. Select tab. How do I do that?
Present.
Oh, there we go. So I'm sharing this. Okay. So the Chiefs and what the hell? Okay, the Chiefs have sewed up number 1. Bills have got number 2. Ravens, Texans, Steelers, Chargers. That could change, just seeding wise, depending on.
Yeah, well, 3 and 5 can change. That's it. Houston's
6 can go. Oh no, 6 is in. Okay. And then on the East, this is going to be crazy because Lions and Vikings, they play, and they're playing Sunday night, the last game of the season. And if the Vikings win, Vikings take over the number 1 spot, which scares the hell out of me. Eagles are already locked in at 2. Rams could change kind of weirdly.
No, Rams are locked in.
At 3?
Who's the 4th seed?
Buccaneers right now. But the Falcons could move in because here, let me just quick go here. So Saturday, am I sharing this? No, I'm not. Hold on. Damn it. Share screen. Because okay. Did I just share the wrong one? Yeah, I did. Sorry. Technical difficulties, folks. I'm going to get this up here. Have a second. I'll be right there. Okay, the schedule. This is the schedule. So we got Cleveland at Baltimore Saturday afternoon. Then Saturday night, we got Bengals at Steelers. Those are huge games because I think Baltimore and Pittsburgh could change seeds if Baltimore loses and Steelers win, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So the game, Cleveland is, if they had Winston, has a chance, but they've been bad with DTR, so I wouldn't expect it. But if Cincinnati wins and we get on day number 2, we get the we get the winner or the Broncos losing and the.
If the Dolphins lose and the Broncos lose, Cincinnati wins. Cincinnati gets the playoffs.
Well, Cincinnati, the Jets would have to be would have to win.
Sure.
It's been a comical comedy of errors here lately. No offense, Sean, but it's been rough.
Well, Skylar Thompson, or not Skylar Thompson, Huntley is starting for the Dolphins.
Okay, well, Huntley's starting. Is Tyrod Taylor starting? Because if Tyrod Taylor's starting, I think the Jets might have a chance.
Aaron Rodgers.
I don't know I don't know if they've said anything about Aaron Rodgers, if they're going to shut him down or
Aaron
not.
Rodgers is starting.
I got to be honest with you. Tyrod Taylor, in the limited time he was in, looked better than Aaron Rodgers.
Well, that's because they were facing the second and third defense of Buffalo, so that doesn't mean anything. Although the Jets are just terrible.
But anyway. I will say something about that though, and I kind of agree with Eric. I think just from a personal standpoint, I think a lot of the Jets players have checked out on Aaron Rodgers. That's just my personal opinion.
Probably.
I look at Aaron Rodgers' body language, and I look at the players around him body language. And unfortunately, I think it's been that way most of the season in New York. I don't think the players – again, I think we've said this since about week 3 or 4. I look at the Jets team, and they don't play as a team. They play as individuals. And that in football is the worst possible thing. I don't care how many stars you have on your team. I don't care if you play as individuals and not as a team and not in the same cohesive pattern. Because we've seen teams with lesser talent that play head and shoulders above their talent level because they play as a unit.
Dave, let me keep you going from a tirade real quick. The Bengals, if they had a chance, the best thing for them to happen would be Tyrod Taylor, because he would give you an emotional victory because they would rally around him. Right. And it would be one of those stories. And Carson Wentz would have his emotional victory, the motivation to prove that he's not a bum. And then Cincinnati probably would have a chance. But if the Jets roll out the same thing they've been rolling out consistently every week, then Cincinnati has no chance. So right. even if, as you guys predict, they win, I would be hoping as a Bengals fan for freaking Tyrod Taylor. And that's a fun statement to make. Who would have thought in week 18 that guy would have had so much weight on him? I do see Rodgers just going out there and it's his spot and doing everything. And I agree with you completely. So that'll be the storyline. Part of me thinks the NFL wants Cincinnati to win, so it comes down to people watching those 425 games too. Because if Cincinnati doesn't win, that eliminates part of the drama of the 425 games. But I mean, ideally, Miami Huntley is starting.
Yep,
that's interesting. I mean, that's intriguing. What's wrong with old Tua now?
I forget what it was. I forget why I didn't start last week, but yeah, Huntley's taking all the reps in practice, and I think he's starting. So
I kind of think Tua might be. We talked about Tank Dell being done. How about Tua being done? I mean,
I don't think he's looked right since he came back from his concussion, and Jalen Waddle's out. I mean, I just think that team is they're hurt a lot more than anything. And, Tua could be done. I mean, like I said, since he came back from that concussion, he hasn't looked like Tua. I mean, he came back and he played well, but that entire offense, like if you look at the Miami offense pre-Tua injury as to what he did when he came back, I think Jonnu Smith in the last 8 games, has led the team in receiving. He doesn't hold on to the ball and wait for Hill to get open or Waddle to get open. He's looking to throw the ball quick. And teams can kind of catch on to that quickly. And I think Tua's gun shy. I don't think he wants to take a hit, even though he tried to tackle somebody with his head. I think Tua's thinking too much.
I'm going to switch one of my picks, Sean, if that's okay. And you're on mute, Sean.
Yeah, we're going to go over that in a couple minutes. I just wanted to talk about a couple things.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to say my dismay with David 2 weeks ago. He asked me about Aaron Rodgers coming back next year, and I started and I was building, and the anger was building, and it was building, and then he like quick switched off and went to someone else, and he did not let me finish my rant. So like, I feel robbed of that chance. I'm not
Well,
going
feel
to
free.
No, I can't pursue it because at that moment it was just I wasn't expecting to talk about it, but then the anger was just growing because it was spontaneous, and I was robbed of it. So that's okay. That's okay. We're gonna move on here. The first set of games is weird because I don't think much is gonna happen, but the second set of games, um, Chiefs Broncos, that's gonna be an interesting one. Chargers Raiders. I think Chargers are going to rest their starters, but I still think they could beat Vegas. Seahawks and Rams. That's probably going to be the most interesting one because I think Los Angeles is going to be sitting their starters, which can allow the Seahawks to slip in.
Are the Seahawks? Aren't they mathematically eliminated?
Well,
I think they are.
yeah, they are. I'm sorry, but it's the Broncos because
Yeah.
the Broncos need that one.
Well, see, and this is my, and I got to go back and I got to talk about this because this is really, to me, the most perplexing thing about that Broncos game and Kansas City. And I get it. I understand. So, I don't understand. We're just on your shared screen, Sean.
Oh, sorry, I screwed up here.
Yeah,
I don't know how the hell I did that. Oh, how about? Oh no, that's not it.
Just Sean. Beautiful.
Hey,
Right.
That's a different one.
This is a different look. So anyway, but no, in all seriousness, I look at the game, and here is my biggest issue that I have with Kansas City resting their starters. They have the bye. You are not going to be playing Patrick Mahomes and your starters for 20 days at least. That is tough. I know you want to get healthy. I know you want to do those things, but sitting your starting football team for 20 days and then having to get into the playoffs against teams who are rolling and just pick up and go, and you haven't been a prolific offense all year in Kansas City, and you're going to sit your guys for 20 days and then just like, it's not like you're picking up from scoring 40 points a game. You're a 15-1 team that has 13 games won by one score or less. You know what I mean? And so, okay, sit down for 20 days and start to play again. I think it's a monumental mistake. I really do, because when you go into round two, you could be playing a Pittsburgh team. You could be playing a LA Charger team. You could be playing a Cincinnati team. And your offense has been dead all year, and you're going to rest your guys for 20 days and then come back and expect to just pick up and shoot out of the gate. Look at what you do at the beginning of a regular season. Look at what you do when you sit most of your preseason. What do the first games look like? Your team looks miserable. They look awful. And it takes you a little bit to get them going. And if you're playing a team that has a decent offense who's been rolling, and you have to come out of the gate and try to roll, all I can say is good luck to you.
They also played 3 games in 10 days and won them all.
Sure. And now you're going to rest for 23.
Yeah, no, I'm honestly, why would you? It's not like you're Houston or you're the Miami Dolphins who snuck in and whatever. I mean, we're why would you risk playing those guys for a game that doesn't mean anything. And
I'm not saying
I'm sorry, and I understand what you're saying. All I'm going to say is this is Patrick fucking Holmes.
Okay.
But this is a guy who's going to be prepared, is going to be fine with the rest of 23 days.
Sure, maybe. But he hasn't played that way like he's been fine all year. You're not talking about Patrick Mahomes from last year or the year before. You got to look at a season based on what it's been this season. And look at Kansas City. How many games have they won by one score or less? How many times have they put 30 points over the scoreboard? And in the playoffs, look at the teams who they might have to face.
They're 15-1. Who gives a shit?
Great. That's great. But what I'm telling, but what 15-1 means nothing. You know what their record is come January 20th when they play again? 0 and it's going to be 1-0 because they haven't won a game yet. So they'll be 0-0. So I'm saying none of that counts once the playoffs start. It's a whole new season. And if you're not ready to roll coming out of the gate,
then by that logic, what difference does it make if they play this week or not?
Huh?
If by that logic, what does it matter if they play this week or not?
Because you just
they have to go 16-1 and they take a week off.
Because all I'm saying, Sean, is you just got Hollywood Brown back in the mix. You got all these guys back. You played with Hollywood Brown, what, 1 game, 2 games maybe? Mm-hmm. You want to develop more chemistry. Practices are so good. Practices are important. But like I said, I think when you have to play teams that are on a continuous have to play to win, have to play to win, have to play to win, have to play to keep going, and they're in a routine, and you come off of it, it can be tough. I know they're good coming off a bye, but not 3 weeks worth of a bye.
Okay. All right, Eric, real quick before you go and talk about this, and I would want you to talk about this if you will, but Pale is showing you much love. He's missed you, as we all have, because you haven't been on lately. So show some love to Hot Pockets.
Hi, Hot Pockets.
What are your thoughts about them, KC resting their starters?
I don't know. I mean, it's a good science experiment. I guess I don't have any thoughts about it until it happens. I on the one hand, you're healthy, you're be fresh. As a defender, I would say it's great. As an offensive guy with timing, I mean, timing might be off for a half. The hope is that you play a team that can't score a lot in the first half, and by the time the second half you warmed up to it, you get your momentum back. So, I mean, offensively, I can see the argument. If I was smart and I was them, I would have probably during that 15 or 11, 3 games, 11 games, I might have rested some of my guys during that stretch and played them week 18 and then got the bye. And then at least they got some rest during that 11 days, and then they got some action and then got another bye. I mean, that would have been probably a smart move. But as an offensive guy, but as a defense, I mean, they've won a lot of games on defense. It'll probably help the guys with fresh legs, and it's probably a benefit to have that time off. I guess I'm undecided. So we'll see what happens with it. It'll be a good learning experience for other teams if they're in that situation ever again. But we'll see what happens.
All right. David, I'm going to ask you this question. I want you to answer in 30 seconds or less because then we're going to move on. But going with the resting the starters, New England and Buffalo, it doesn't mean shit. Nothing can change.
Right.
Do you still play your starters?
Although
there's not the 2-week gap.
Josh Allen is probably going to play 1 series just to continue his 114 consecutive starter streak. But for the most part, no, because you're playing next week. Again, by the time Buffalo plays, they might already know who they're going to be playing. They could be playing because Denver holds their own. The key to the cards is in Denver's hands. They control their destiny.
Right.
If I'm Buffalo, I might play some for that, but I'm getting my backups and everything as much work as I can because I do think that based on Buffalo's defense, you're going to need your depth and you're going to be able to need them to play because that's how Buffalo plays. So,
All right. One thing I do want to, before we go on to the games, I just want to mention that this weekend coming up, a very cold snap is coming through the upper Midwest, the Midwest, the East Coast, going all the way down to Georgia, although they play in a dome, so that doesn't matter. But there is a very cold snap going on. So this could change the way some games go. All right. So last week, go ahead.
Yeah. By the way, if we get to that New England Buffalo game, because Josh Allen's not playing and Mitch is, I'm going to change my pick on that one. So just bookmark that one when we get there.
Okay. Because these are all going out of order, but I've actually already got that game starred.
Okay.
So let me just share my screen just to show you where the games are on the weekend. So you got Buffalo at New England, which is going to have a cold snap. You got Giants at Philly, which Philly is not playing Saquon. I don't think they're playing Hurts either. The other big ones, KC at Denver. KC probably will be resting their starters. Chargers and Raiders. Chargers probably will rest their starters because nothing could change. Seahawks at Rams. Rams are probably.
Wait a minute. I think something can change. I want to make sure, I don't know, but I think if the Chargers win and Pittsburgh loses, Chargers go to 5th and Pittsburgh goes to 6th. So the Chargers could end up playing Houston and Pittsburgh would have to go to Baltimore.
You are correct.
Okay.
That is a correct statement, which means that's a huge game.
So it does have importance, but depending on what happens Saturday.
Correct. And then Sunday night, you got the Dolphins and the Jets. It's going to be cold. And the Dolphins are not starting Tua. Crazy. And then the Sunday night game, this game, if you watch any one game this year, it's got to be that game.
Yep.
Because, man, that's ridiculous. This is number 1 seed. I fully expected Minnesota to collapse against Green Bay. I picked Green Bay. And no. And the game was a lot closer than the score led on. So,
yep.
Okay. So we're going to go through the games we picked. We can change things, and then we're going to wrap it up. So Carolina at Atlanta.
Wait, before we do that, can I just say one thing? Because I had mentioned, or I had seen that Paoli, they were talking about Saquon with the record. And, I do want to talk about this record for a minute because, I don't have an issue with the record. I don't have an issue with the yards. I don't. I think you get so many yards. You're not responsible for how many games are in a season. Okay. And I believe if you rush for over what Eric Dickerson ran, then you have the yardage record. But the way I would look at this award more, or the rushing record more accurately, is if you looked at the average yards per carry. I think that would give you a more accurate version, because I could go back to 14 games and O.J. Simpson, he had 6.6 yards per carry. I think Eric Dickerson had 5.7 or 5.5 yards per carry. And as of right now, Saquon, if he's not playing, has 5.9 yards per carry over his 16 games that he played. So I think the better way for that record to be more true is the running back who averages the most in rushing yards per attempt. And again, I'm not splitting hairs over a record. I think if Saquon would have, I think the problem is I think if Saquon would have started that game, he probably would have had 110 yards in the first quarter. Okay. Personally, against the Giants, I think he would have had 110 yards in the first quarter because, boom, they would have just kept handing him the ball off. But again, me and Jeffrey talked about this earlier, and I think they're doing the right thing because you're putting 52 other guys ahead of one guy. Because if Saquon gets hurt, that's a big blow to your Super Bowl chances if that's your ultimate goal. So you're putting 52 guys on your roster ahead of the one. So, and he might have been doing that himself. He might put the 52 guys ahead of him. He might have said, I'm not going to play because of that same reason. So if that's good, Saquon's a very unselfish player, and I applaud him for doing it.
This is one thing I will say is Saquon said he's never had a hat and T-shirt day.
Yep.
And when he got to put on that NFC East champs, the shirt, the hat, and everything, and the Eagles are not anyone to mess around with.
No.
So amazing. Eric, do you have anything to say before we move on here? Or are you ready to just move on?
He didn't get the record, and Dickerson played less games. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah. Then they went on to the Dickerson got 34 more carries. Well, that's not the NFL we play in today. So it was actually tougher back then than now. So, okay. So, Carolina and Atlanta, Jeff and KD took Carolina. David, Eric, and I, and Paoli all picked Atlanta. Is anyone going to change from that?
Staying.
I'm staying.
Okay. Washington, we had a run. Everyone picked Washington. No one picked Dallas.
Is Washington locked, or can they move up?
Let me check my thing.
I think they're locked.
I'm switching to Dallas. Because Dallas can only screw themselves by winning.
I don't think they can't because they can't move up.
No, they can't.
Because the loser of the Minnesota game goes to 5.
Yeah, so I am taking.
Yeah,
I'm
going to go to Dallas. I'm going to take Dallas because I don't think they play Daniels.
Yeah, and so what would be funny is Dallas is like, okay, well, we're positioning for draft start. No, we're not. They win.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. Dallas doesn't have a quarterback. They don't have receivers. They've released Ezekiel Elliott, the big news of the fucking day. Although, I think I'm going to agree with you guys. I think Washington is not playing anyone, and I think Dallas could come out on top with this one. So I'm going to go Dallas. Paoli, if you want to change and go with me, feel free, or just say, hey, whatever you pick, Sean, I'm picking, because we picked all the same games this week, and he's one game ahead of me. I'm sorry. Let me quick put this up. So Jeff was 14-2 last week, 170-82. David was 11-5, 169-87. KD 13-3, 173-83. Eric 12-4, 147, 109. I was 13-3, 177-79, and Paoli is still one game ahead, 12-4. And he's going to pick everything I pick because he just wants to win. So, okay, Paoli also moves over to Dallas.
At least Eric can't catch me, so I'm good.
Hey, I was 12-4 last week.
I know. You
did good. You panicked like 5 weeks ago and started picking just batshit crazy.
Yeah.
So I give you props for like, I got to make up this deficit. And you chipped away at it. I think you would have done better. Oh, my God, Paoli, I'm Sean's inner thoughts tonight. No, because you're being a bitch. Paoli, you're being a little bitch. You're just picking whoever I pick. So we have the exact same picks, and you can't lose.
I think you should text me before the game if you want to change any picks and just not tell Paoli.
we can change our picks through the chat as long as it's time stamped. And I can let Paoli know because I'm an honest guy. I'm going to do that. But like maybe 3 minutes after the game starts.
Let them know at 101.
That's it. Okay, so then we got Kansas City at Denver. We all picked Denver. Is anyone going to buckle off that?
Nope. No.
Eric, are you thinking about it or?
I considered it because I think it would be hysterical because I think Carson Wentz will be motivated. This game will come down to a missed Kansas City field goal at the end to win it.
All righty. Okay, so this is the big one. Minnesota at Detroit. David, Katie, and Eric, you all have Minnesota, while Jeff, myself, and Paoli have Detroit. This is a tough one. This is the last game of the season. Holy shit. I can see this game going either way.
We should, I tell you what, for the funsies, we should count this as 50 games. And so the winner.
There you go. You still wouldn't win, but
hey,
okay.
Your record would just look a little better. But no, man, this is tough because
it's in Detroit, which is so tough.
I can't see. But Dan Campbell's proven me so wrong so many times. That defense is beat up, but they struggled against freaking San Francisco and Ricky Pearsall and Isaac. I got to stick with Minnesota. I got to. I can't do it. They played too good all year.
Well, what are they? 15-2 right now.
They're 14.
14-2.
They're 14-3.
No, they're 14-2 because we're at 17 games.
Oh yeah, so they're both 14-2.
So, wouldn't this be crazy to have a 14-3 wild card team?
That's going to be the first time you're going to have 3 teams in the NFC with 14 wins in the playoffs.
Crazy. I mean, you're going to have 14 wins as a wild card team.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
How about I say they tie? that should be worth 15 wins.
If you pick a tie, I will honor it, and I will crown you champion of this year if they tie. Because there's what the fuck would happen if they tied? Detroit would, because they already have
the one win
over.
The Chargers years ago and the Raiders, if they both
they could have done that and he freaking screwed it up.
They could have both made the playoffs, but the Chargers took a timeout and tried to get the ball back, and the Raiders were trying to run the clock out, and then the Raiders
ended up losing because they called timeout.
The Chargers lost. The Raiders were like, fuck it. If they're going to time out and try to get this ball back, we're just going to kick the field goal. Yeah. I remember that. They were playing for a tie on the last game. Pittsburgh got in because of it. I'll never forget that. That was one of my favorite moments in football. It's like, Chargers, if you get a tie, you're in. But they're like, let's take timeouts to get the ball back. It was hysterical. But that would be fun. A tie would be great. I don't know how the tie breaking would go. I think Detroit would probably win.
Detroit wins it because they already beat them once.
Yeah. So Minnesota would have to be paid off. It would have to be sketchy. But it would be funny.
Man.
So, Eric, are you still sticking with Minnesota or are you going to Detroit?
I'm staying with the Vikings.
Okay.
I'll stay with my pick, but, man, Vegas would win a ton.
So, then we got Chicago at Green Bay. We all pick Green Bay. Is anyone?
No, I just don't like Chicago. I'm not doing it.
No.
Okay. We all picked Houston at Tennessee.
I'm going to take Tennessee. I'm going to take Tennessee.
I'm switching too.
Okay.
Mason Rudolph and Will Levis are both playing.
What?
Houston's just beat the shit up.
How does having 2 quarterbacks help you win anything?
Yeah,
I just think Houston's just really beat up. They're just beat up.
Okay. my big question is, Houston's got to play because they're at 2 bad weeks. They need to,
and Houston's already locked into 4. So
yeah, but they got to get something going in order to have something positive in the playoffs. If they lose
well,
3 games in a row,
if I'm Houston, I'm sitting all my guys because I need as many healthy bodies for whatever semblance of playoff game I can have. I can't afford to lose another guy of
Okay.
importance.
All right, so you got Jacksonville at Indy. Eric picked Jacksonville. The rest of us picked Indy. Anyone want to switch?
Jacksonville has beaten Indy at the last week of the season often. I'm not switching. Look it up.
No. I'll still take Indy, even though they're a dumpster fire.
Well, here's a good question. Let me share my screen here, because there are a couple things that come on. So we got Week 18 schedule. So they're playing at 1:00. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to share my screen again for the playoff picture. And
they're out of it.
Oh, fuck. Everyone's out of it?
So what you know what you should bring up? Bring up the draft order as of today.
No,
I'll tell you who's gonna win because
there you go.
Because I'll tell you right now, if
Jacksonville would be first in the draft, well, not first, but higher than Indy.
Yeah. If Jacksonville does anything to try to win that game, any semblance of even remotely Doug Peterson returning or anybody will be lost.
I think it'll be funny, and I think they won't be trying to win, but I think the Colts won't be trying to win either. And I think it'll be a comedy of who's going to like, I think it'll be 2nd and 2, and they'll be, all right, punt team, come on out.
Let's punt, yeah. What's the over-under on punts? Let's parlay this game into punts.
Actually, that's not a bad idea. I might look.
That's not a bad idea at all.
How many punts do we get in a game? Over and under? I mean, I would take over 15 here.
I'd probably go with over 8.
There you go.
I think 15.
No, that's too many. You don't have
over 8 would be simple.
Total
punts.
You just got to check and see what the parlay line is on punts in the game.
You know, and that's the guys that are excited, like the Colts and Jaguars punter. Like, hey, this is going to be a good audition for my career here because I'm going to be punting a lot.
I could become Dan McAfee Jr.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we got the Chargers at Vegas. We all picked the Chargers.
Yep, I think the Chargers still have, I'm going to reserve my right to change that based on what happens with Pittsburgh.
Yep. Yeah, I think the Chargers kill them if Pittsburgh loses, but I think if the Steelers win and they're stuck at 6, they are on to Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
I believe so. I will also wait for that time. And Paoli, if you're listening, you need to text me before or anywhere between after the Pittsburgh game and before they start playing.
Yeah, I don't trust Easton Stick in that.
Yeah. Okay, so then here's Seattle and the Rams. Eric picked Seattle. The rest of us picked the Rams. I personally, now that I know the Rams are sitting their starters, and because McVay kind of hinted to that, I'm switching. I'm going to Seattle on that one.
I'll take Seattle as well.
Okay. Paoli, if you're listening, you little bitch. Just whatever we're thinking, Sean, I'm fine with it. Suck. Wow. You know, funny, it was earlier in the week. I'm like, the only game we picked different was Seattle the Rams. He's like, no, I picked the Rams. Oh, fuck. All right. Buffalo at New England. We all picked Buffalo.
I'm changing. I think Mitch Trubisky. I don't trust Mitch in this situation.
I don't care if you trust Mitch. I trust the number 1 overall pick more than Mitch, more than any backup Bills. I'm telling you right now, that will be the game where you'll see the punt unit come out on 2nd down if you're New England, because you are not giving up the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, but you're expecting New England not to screw themselves up here. They've already got Drake May. I do think it's important for Drake May, and I don't think Buffalo's going to try to do anything in this game either. I've got New England at home because they're at home and their fans would be pissed.
Gerard Mayo, yeah, they'll be pissed if they lose the number 1 overall pick by beating Buffalo when it doesn't matter. And the fact that Gerard Mayo came out and said benching Drake May is not off the table, I'm taking Buffalo, not because I think they're better, but because I don't think New England wants to win.
I'm gonna take New England. I think they screw it up, and I think they win at home. How many times do we talk about teams that like should just lay down but they end up winning? And so this is one of those situations. I'm switching. I'm taking New England.
I do got to say something though. Mitch Trubisky 1 for 1, 69 yards and a touchdown this year. Perfect quarterback rating. Best quarterback in the league. I'm just letting you know right now. Money Mitch is back in the house, man. He's getting ready to play for that contract next year.
Oh, God. Well, if he goes, I swear to God, if I'm going to not get on the chat, if he goes 32 of 33 for 323 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Oh, man. See, now the thing is, Paoli's just being a little bitch. So I kind of want to pick New England. And then as soon as we end the broadcast, I'll switch back. I'll just stick. Now this is one. It's got me screwed up. Miami at the Jets. Got a backup quarterback. It's gonna be cold. You know what? Okay, Paoli, agree with me. Jets are gonna win this one. I'm going Jets. I don't think Miami with a backup quarterback in the cold is gonna do well. David.
What's up, Jeffrey?
What's up? Somewhere in I heard Money Mitch, and I was thinking to myself, how good of a quarterback outside of Pittsburgh that guy is.
If he goes 32 of 33 for 323 and 4 touchdowns, man, I ain't coming on the chat that day.
Money Mitch, that's so funny. Anyway, let's go to how you guys doing?
Good.
How you doing, man?
Getting things done. My daughter's getting ready to take a trip up to New York City. She's moving there, so I had to help her get everything packed and moved and all that stuff. So she's getting ready to head out here in about 30 minutes or so. So I stopped in before I got to go out there and help her get the rest of the way out. But anyway, what's going on? What are we talking about? You said Justin.
Where the fuck's my car?
Yeah, she's taking it, Sean. Yeah, unfortunately.
Damn it.
But don't worry. It'll be on the black market in no time. It'll be.
Well, yeah, probably with no wheels, but
yeah, exactly. You just have to get new tires.
So anyway, now I forgot where the hell we were. We were at the Jets Miami
Dolphins.
Yeah, the Jets Dolphins. Okay,
yeah.
So you had Miami. Are you still sticking with Miami? Or you going to the Jets?
Yeah. Who's playing for? I mean, I know Tua is not playing, but
they're at the same time as Denver and
yes,
yeah.
Playing.
So both those games will matter to those teams,
right?
Because
but it don't matter. But David,
or in the afternoon.
But Skylar Thompson's the quarterback for
Tyler Huntley.
Oh, that's right, Snoop Huntley. Yeah, I don't know. Listen, man. I don't know. Is Aaron Rodgers playing?
That's what I said. If Tyrod Taylor ends up playing any part of that game, I'm taking the Jets because I think they play harder for Taylor than they would for Rodgers.
Yeah, but I mean, they might play harder, but they still suck. And the reality is they scored 14 points against Buffalo after Buffalo stopped playing football. I mean, it's the fourth. Anyway, neither here nor there. For something, I'll stick with Miami because they're playing for something. That's it.
I'm gonna stay Miami, and hopefully Sean changes my pick unless for some reason Rodgers does not play. And then if Huntley's in there, I think Cole and I think Huntley being in there versus Tyrod Taylor, Jets could pull it off and then screw up their draft choice even more.
I think the saddest part of the whole thing from last week, again, and this is what I looked at. Huntley did not play good Cleveland did not play to win that game. Cleveland played to lose. If you watch that game, Cleveland was completely playing to not.
David, the moment they pulled Winston out, I mean, I'm not saying that when Winston was in, Cleveland was playing to win. I don't get that confused. But the moment they pulled him out, they were playing to lose because DTR is not the answer. He hasn't been the answer, and he's not even fun with losing. Like even when Jameis sucks, it's fun, right? And I don't understand what they're trying to do because anyway. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I would change my Cleveland pick if Winston was playing. I agree because Winston, at least, he's goofy and he's an idiot, but like they've said, he's fun, and what he can do is he can throw it down the field. DTR, it's like waving the white flag, and it's terrible. And they should. I don't know how that. I know he's coach of the year last year, but I don't know how that organization doesn't have any changes from top to bottom.
I am taking the Jets. I don't know who I took before, but I'm taking the Jets.
You had picked the Jets originally.
Well, I'm sticking with that pick because Huntley did nothing that impressed me.
John, unless Tyrod Taylor plays most of that game, I'm staying with the Dolphins. But if Tyrod Taylor plays most of that game, I'm switching my pick.
It's going to be cold in New York. They don't win under 40.
You had originally picked the Jets.
Oh, I'm at the Jets. Okay, then I have a feeling that Rodgers is going to be very quick game, even if he plays. I'm going to stick with the Jets because I think Tyrod Taylor is going to win.
Okay. So then we got Giants at Philly, and Philly is most likely resting their starters. We know they're resting one. Does anyone think the fucking Giants have a goddamn chance in Philly?
Yes, I think the Giants win because I think Philly screws them and they have to drop down to like pick number 10.
Yeah.
And they don't even get their quarterback.
I mean, that's about the way I feel too. I mean, I really feel that.
Well, they screwed themselves last week.
Exactly.
The Jets or the Giants. Now they're going to drop even further because Philly ain't going to let them win or ain't going to let them lose.
I have a theory. That's why they didn't play Drew Lock until they did, because he gave them a shot to win games. So they played whatever that guy was, Da Vinci or they played him, and they're like, okay, let's suck really bad. And then they had no choice when he got hurt. They had to play Lock, and now they're like, shit, we're winning games because Lock's not terrible. At least he's kind of Jameis Winston-ish. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Giants because I think they're gonna win.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch to the Giants too. Hey, and before you go any further, I gotta run. I'm sorry, my daughter's getting ready, so I gotta run out here and help her send her off. But hey, real quick, and something that I really was looking forward to, and I'm my heart's a little hurt right now as I look between the 90 and the 3. I thought I'd see a 40, but in a different color, Eric, because I wanted to announce to everybody that the Von Miller 5 sacks, right?
A half sack after week 17. I mean, you won. So
I never said he was going to have 38 sacks. I said he'd have more than 4.5. And guess what he has?
He's going to end up with 5. He's going to end up with 5. So it ended up being razor close to me being right. But you won.
Did you order that yet, Eric?
In the mail.
It's in the mail. Checks in the mail. I love to see it. And just for I know we don't have a million viewers, but we have the ones that are important right now. And I just want to tell you, I think every day I hear Eric say, "You want to bet? You want to bet? You want to bet?" And I say, "No." I just want to let you know, Eric, if you haven't noticed, I'm 2 for 2. I don't bet unless I know I'm going to win. So, say I want to bet. But hey, when I do take the bet, you should probably not take it. You should probably say, never mind, because I don't bet unless I know I'm going to win.
Made it 5.5. I'd have won. But I mean, it's
if he didn't get suspended for 4 games, I'd have won 6 weeks ago. Anyway, I'm just talking shit. Hey, y'all be good. Happy New Year, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, hey, tell Dominique, have her a safe trip. Tell her that I love her and that tell her good luck in New York.
Okay. All right.
Bye.
All right, this just in from the chat of from the couch. Mike Paoli has said he's tucking his tail between his legs, and because we've all picked the same games and I'm switching games, he's going to switch every game, so he will win this season by 1 game. And that's kind of a pussy move, but that's okay. I understand.
I'm going to tell you, Peely, that's a wuss move, man. All year long, you've been picking on your own, and now you're up one game, and you're just going to play it safe, man. I thought you were a Philly fan. I thought you had more balls than that.
Hey,
man, you're nothing more than a glorified Cleveland Brown fan.
How far back is Jeff and the rest of the guys? KD.
What's that?
How far back is Jeff and KD from you and Dave?
Unreachable.
Unreachable. Okay, so even if they win,
Peely's got me by a game, and he's just going to keep that game in his pocket. But the nearest person to me is 4 games away.
Yeah, KD should switch up 6 of his picks and go for broke here.
He could.
I mean, why not? You got nothing to lose, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, that if KD's listening tonight, somebody get him on the chat and tell him to switch up 6 of his picks.
Yeah, and I'm going to post them in the chat. Okay, so after Philadelphia, I'm still sticking with Philly, and Paoli is obviously too. San Francisco at Arizona, and everybody except for Eric. Eric, you picked Arizona. The rest of us picked San Francisco.
I am going to switch. It's out. Brock Purdy's not playing. Arizona's playing Kyler Murray. James Conner's out, but I'm gonna think Arizona's gonna want to finish the season on a high note, and so I'm gonna take Arizona. I'm switching.
All right, I'm also gonna pick Arizona because San Francisco cannot make a fucking field goal. Oh, and Eric just posted in the chat. KD switched 6 of your picks. Try to beat me. You guys know you can't beat me because I'm the fucking best. I've been on this program 2 years, and I've won it 2 years in a row.
We got all these guys resting backups, and we got all these. I mean, this is a good week to do it. And when do you have to lose? If you're not first, you're last. You're above average. You're just somewhere in the average category.
True, like all my fucking fantasy teams. So, okay. Paoli is obviously switching to Arizona because I switched to Arizona. And look at this. I'm not even making him say it. I'm just doing it. So, all right. So, Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. Ooh, this is a tough one. We all picked Cincinnati except for Eric picked Pittsburgh.
Until the day I die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I got to change this one.
I can't, and it's not. Look at again. I told you that. I told you 4 weeks ago that they could be great or they could lose their last because this was the toughest part of their schedule. And the last couple of weeks, I just think Cincinnati is a team that they don't need a defense. They just need the other team's offense to be able to keep pace, and Pittsburgh can't. And I know they might have had their number, and I know they beat them the first time or whatever. I think they beat Cincinnati the first time, but that was a different team playing. And I just look at this game and the way Joe Burrow's been playing, I don't see any signs of him slowing down, and I just don't see Pittsburgh being that team that's going to be able to go point for point.
All right, I respect that opinion, but they scored how many points Saturday night?
Who?
Cincinnati.
27.
Yeah. And they had 400 yards, and they needed every bit of it to beat Denver, right? And Joe Burrow was close to perfect. They scored 27 points. Okay, so will he continue to be perfect in 22 degrees and wind and nasty winter Pittsburgh weather with Pittsburgh after 11 days of absolutely getting it from the media? If they're ever going to be motivated and they're ever going to be things fixed after that much time, I mean, they had practically coming off a bye week here. And they've heard it every day from the media. So, I mean, it is what it is. We forget Cincinnati's rest of their team outside of Burrow and Higgins and Chase isn't very good. And if your plan is to air it out in 22 degrees with a bunch of wind, I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game at all. I think it's going to be a very low-scoring game because I don't think you're going to have opportunity to be able to throw it 40 yards down the field without the ball going into the stands. So if this was 65 degrees and a perfect day, I think it favors Cincinnati. 22 in wind, I think it's going to be tough. Chase Brown's injured, and they've got Khalil Herbert. They're going to have to run the ball and play smash mouth football, and I don't think they can. So we'll see what happens.
No, like I said, I think it's going to be a good game. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not. It would not shock me in the least bit if Pittsburgh won. I'm not saying that Cincinnati's just going to beat up on them. I'm just saying that if I looked at a team that if you can throw in that weather, Cincinnati's capable, and I don't think Pittsburgh is. And so if I'm looking at the quarterbacks like that, it's kind of like I'm not even going to say it. But again, I do believe that Joe Burrow will be able to throw the ball. I don't think he's going to be strictly a ground game. And I give that slight edge to Cincinnati. But it's not because I hate Pittsburgh, because they could very well win this game. I
think Cincinnati probably win if the weather was better. I think it'll be a deterrent. I think the as he said, the cold snap coming down, I think that's going to really affect the passing. And you have to play to the climate. Chase Brown's hurt. So, now that they've had that Chase Brown injury, even if he plays on that ankle, which he hasn't practiced yet this week, I think it's going to be tough. And I think that their offensive line is not very good. And if you're having to hold the ball an extra second or a second and a half because of the wind, and you've got to make sure that you throw a bunch of, darts, and you're not able to kind of throw the 40-yard bomb chase, it's going to be hard. And I think it's going to be a 13-9, 20-17 kind of game.
Sure.
I just don't think it's going to be a lot of scoring. They had 50 degrees with Denver, and they needed every bit of it.
I mean, I'll put it this way. I think it very well could come down to a field goal game. And if it does, I would give the edge to Pittsburgh based on the fact that Boswell is the best kicker in the league. And he's used to kicking in that stadium, and everybody knows that at that certain one end of the stadium end zone, it's very tricky to kick. So
and after 3 weeks of playing the best teams in the league and getting your ass kicked, if Tomlin doesn't have a good plan for that, he doesn't need to have a job no matter what happens in the playoffs. Right. Because if you're a good coach and you go through those 3 weeks, 11 days, and get, a week and a half off to kind of fix it, you don't fix it, I mean, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the last two games, I don't think anyone's going to change. New Orleans at Tampa, we all picked Tampa. And Cleveland at Baltimore, we all picked Baltimore. Tampa and Baltimore have something to play for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think either of these two teams, New Orleans or Cleveland,
unless Jameis Winston plays, which I don't think he's going to. That's a caveat. Winston could do it, but I don't see him playing.
Yeah, I'm at this point. I think Cleveland's playing for draft position anyway. What are they, 4-12?
Oh, I already took down my stuff.
I'm sorry.
I'll
look real quick.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't matter what the hell they play for. They just suck. And they just restructured Deshaun Watson, so it doesn't fucking matter.
I just want to see what they're 3-13. So if they lose, they have an opportunity to finish like.
Hey, I'm reading about the Browns right now. I just want to add this caveat that the Ravens are going to kick their ass. He'll be splitting time. DTR will be splitting time with Bailey Zappi.
Who?
Bailey Zappi is what they're saying. And they've ruled out Njoku, Okonraro, and Cedric Tillman. So they are waving the white flag.
This is called, let's try to get pick number 2 in the draft.
Yeah. Bailey Zappi. So,
all right. Just in case anyone didn't know, if you have a chance, check out the Let's Go Brownies podcast because the chick's really hot.
The best part. Hey, that's the best part of the organization. They should pay her more money and pay that podcast more money because that's about all the positives they have in Cleveland this year.
Oh, they get it's actually kind of nice. I mean, I'm happy for them because they have
successful.
They have their own network. They broadcast the Stump Mitchell podcast as part of Here We Go Brownies. I don't know if you know who Stump Mitchell is. He used to be a running back for the Arizona Cardinals or St. Louis Cardinals. I think he played for the Browns. Now he's a coach. So, I mean, they've got a network going, and they're successful, and they get, they're doing good. And she just recently got married, so, and Dustin's living in Cleveland now. He moved from Idaho to Cleveland, and he's been really doing a lot of groundwork out there in Cleveland and getting all the interviews and, Joe Thomas and all those guys. So, yeah, they're up on it, man, and they got it going on. So good on Here We Go Brownies, man. Let's show them love.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. And I just cannot imagine moving from Idaho to Cleveland. That's like moving from asshole to Tate. It is what it is. I'm sorry. Anyway, on that note, Happy New Year, everyone. May your 2025 be better than your 2024. We wish nothing but the best for you and your family, happiness, healthiness. And if anyone has anything to say, please say, because otherwise we'll end the broadcast. If you guys want to continue, I will vacate. But otherwise,
no, I think we're good.
Happy New Year.
All right. May your team in the playoffs win. If your team is not in the playoffs, may the team you hate the most lose in the first round. All right. You all have a good night, and we will see you next week from the couch.